10:15, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors of this Friday, September 27th, 2024. Please note this meeting is being recorded. Thank you to everyone joining us today in person and through our audio option. Madam Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Good morning again, everyone, and thank you for being patient as we start our board meeting a little later than normal. Starting with Director Conroy. Dorsey. Absent. Rangardio. Absent. Garbarino.
Present.
Judice.
Here.
Roseville.
Here.
Hernandez. Absent.
Here.
Maston.
Here.
Moulton Peters.
Here.
Parr.
Present.
Berdoni.
Here.
Safai. Absent. Snyder.
Here.
Stephanie is absent. Curio.
Here.
Beer. Here. Second Vice President Rabbit.
Here.
First Vice President Hill.
Here.
And President Cochran.
There.
Thank you. You have a call.
Okay, thank you. As a reminder, please be sure to turn your mic on when we're open for directors' discussion so everyone can hear. Please raise your hand and the secretary or I will call on you accordingly. If we miss your raised hand, please speak up. Following any discussion, we will take the appropriate vote. Please follow along by referring to the page number located at the bottom right-hand corner of your meeting packet. First Vice President Hill, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice President Hill. Madam Secretary, would you please continue with the next item on the agenda?
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is public comment for any and all items on today's agenda. If you wish to speak on an item on our agenda, please speak to it now. We're going to start with those attending our meeting here today in person. Then we're going to move on to the people that are maybe online. So first person, we have Manuel Gamboa. Please join us at the end of the table.
Sounds like it's gone.
Just push it.
There it is. Morning, everybody. There's a few little comments I wanted to make today. I know I could have went on the phone, but I thought I'd make it a little bit more personal. Anyway, my name is Manuel Gamboa. And first thing I wanted to say was a couple months ago, we had a ceremony on the Golden Gate suicide deterrent net. And I just wanted to say once again, the whole event was good. And I wanted to thank everybody involved. And if anybody wasn't there, just thank you for everything that's you guys done. Because of course, you know, September 20th of 2013, my son, Kyle Gamboa, he came here and jumped off the bridge and died. But since then, you know, I've asked for something to be done and well, it's been done. And that's where I'm coming from as far as thanking you for the closing ceremony and everything that was involved. And actually going there around the area where my son jumped at and knowing that this net could have stopped him. And who knows what would have happened after that. But just hearing all the, you know, news or data or whatever, it's working. It's working to where before that, there was nothing. And I just wanted to thank you. But like I said, the other thing is it's going on 11 years and it was last Friday. And I just wanted to bring that up and share that with you. And I know a lot of you won't ever forget it. And I just wanted to let you know that with the time, it is getting better. It's, to deal with, the tragedy that, well, I call it tragedy. But like I said, seeing that net out there and looking down to where my son would have probably seen that, it would have, I've had some discussion, it would have interrupted that, I believe. So, and with that, just thank you again for allowing me to speak and doing everything that you guys can to prevent deaths and prevent families like me or loved ones like me to having to go through this. So thank you again. It's good seeing you all, and have a good weekend.
Thank you, Manuel. Secretary?
Thank you, Manuel. Our next speaker is Dave Rohde. Mr. Rohde, please join us at the end of the table.
Good morning. My name is Dave Rohde. I'm the San Francisco Policy Co-Chair of the Climate Reality Project. Did I really need that? I know I've become a familiar face here. Today, in fact, marks 5 years since I began speaking at your monthly board meetings. Those 60 speeches add up to 3 hours in which I've tried to articulate climate facts, to describe your role in addressing it, and to encourage you to take action. My first thought was to come here today to celebrate what I witnessed, to applaud your commitment to electric buses for all future purchases, and to acknowledge the work this board has put into the new strategic plan, which includes the outline of a climate action plan. But my focus shifted when 2 reports came to my attention. As reported by the San Francisco Examiner last month, the San Francisco Ferry Service, operated by WETA, using $136 million in local, state, and federal funding, is nearing completion of 3 high-speed electric ferries. The second story is from the general manager's report this morning, and I apologize, Mr. Mulligan, for preempting your news. The Federal Transit Administration just awarded the district $4.9 million for replacement of the MV Del Norte ferry. Unfortunately, that report comes with the news that Del Norte will be replaced with a diesel catamaran. Granted, the emissions reduction in your new ferry include 95% reduction in particulate matter and 80% reduction in nitrous oxide. Mr. Mulligan will tell you that the ferry adheres to the Euro Stage 5 emissions standards. But your new ferry will still be burning diesel, a biofuel called renewable diesel, which, when its production and refinement are taken into consideration, generates carbon emissions almost equal to petroleum diesel. The millions per year that you spend on biofuel go directly to the oil companies who are refining it. Companies like Marathon, Phillips 66, and Chevron. The same companies that my climate colleagues in the East Bay are suing for toxic pollution their biofuel refineries are releasing into their neighborhoods. And by the way, the Euro Stage 5 emission standards are 8 years old. Since then, most EU countries have committed themselves to electric ferries, like the ones the San Francisco Ferry Service is building. What's the deal? It appears that once again, you're rubber stamping a plan that brings you only slightly closer to a zero emissions goal. I'm happy to know that the Del Norte replacement will use 30% less fuel, but it's still burning fuel, generates emissions, and supports the oil companies that are the chief cause of the climate crisis. I urge you to revisit this plan. President Cochran, wouldn't you love to announce that a new Del Norte ferry, named after your home county, will be the district's first electric ferry? Charging times for electric ferries have vastly fallen so that they are completely doable. Please consider it. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, David.
We have no other speakers in the room. Justine, we're going to turn it over to you to see if there's any speakers on the public line.
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, I would like to poll one last time.
Sure.
Thank you. Is there anyone new that's joined us that would like to speak this morning at the board meeting? Please use ** to unmute yourself and let me know. Again, press ** to unmute yourself and let me know. President Cochran, Madam Secretary, I do not hear any speakers this morning on our public line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Manuel and David, for your comments. This concludes our public comments for the items on today's agenda. We're going to move on to item number 5 to approve the consent calendar. Before we take our vote, are there any questions from board members on the consent calendar? If not, I have a motion for this item.
So moved, Rabbit.
It's been moved and seconded by Gabarino. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Let the record show that there's no opposition. The motion passes. Moving on to item number 6A, which is the report of the general manager. Dennis, speak with your report.
Thank you, President Cochran, members of the board, members of the public and staff. My written report is before you. I'll highlight just a couple items. One is travel in the Golden Gate Corridor. That's why we exist. That's our business. While travel is still well below pre-pandemic levels, since the advent of vaccines for COVID, we have been seeing slow, steady upward growth in travel while still below the 2019 levels. Of note, though, southbound bridge traffic in July and August of this year was less than southbound bridge traffic in the same month a year earlier. So that is something to cause some pause. 2 months does not make a trend. Summer travel can be a little wonky at times. But it is something we're watching. It is possible that the slow, steady growth of post-pandemic travel may be leveling off, but I'll continue to report as I do each month what's going on in the corridor. Bridge traffic during the commute period is relatively flat. Between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. on weekdays, bridge traffic is 28% below 2019 levels. We look forward to working with San Francisco and all of our partners to see the Phoenix, downtown San Francisco rise up again. While commute travel is down, it's important to note that we pay our bills with tolls. And so commute travel is down, overall bridge travel is down about 15%. So, the amount of vehicles we have contributing to our bottom line is less. So it's important that we continue our focus on managing expenses aggressively so that we avoid this board having to make very difficult, heart-wrenching decisions at some future date. We do continue to see very modest but steady growth in bus and ferry ridership, not quite as robust as, say, a year or two ago, but it's still trending upward. That is positive, so we continue to adjust and add back service as we see a return of travelers in the corridor. I was going to talk about the good news about a $4.9 million grant. Mr. Rode did steal my thunder. We are excited. We are replacing our vessels. It's important to note that WIDA is procuring some electric vessels as well as diesel vessels. They're using diesel vessels for their longer trips because the electric vessels that are available today do not meet the profile for speed that they need to meet customer expectations. But for their shorter trips, electric is a viable option and it's moving forward. I mentioned to you previously that Federal Transit Administration grants may be at risk. They may be at risk because of a court decision in a federal court in the southern part of the state. And so at some future date, we'll learn more about that. The good news, though, is your grant staff very expeditiously submitted a lot of grants to FTA, $28 million worth, and FTA sent those to the U.S. Department of Labor for their 15-day review. We concluded that process. We have those grants locked in, so they are not at risk. And I will continue to report to you in the coming months how this may play out with respect to transit agencies and their grants from the Federal Transit Administration. But it is possible that we will go back into the troubling time when those are held up. And then finally, it brings me to the Employee of the Month. And we have an Employee of the Month committee that is made up of no managers, but it's the folks that actually do the work for the district. And this month, the Employee of the Month committee selected Barton Hackworth to be our Employee of the Month. Barton is a vessel master in ferry division. Come on up, Barton. Barton is recognized by his colleagues for just being an awesome coworker, an incredibly professional vessel master in his interactions with everybody, members of the public, which can be trying at times, his coworkers and colleagues. He keeps people safely moving in the corridor. Barton is just one of those quiet, soft-spoken folks that just gets things done extraordinarily well. It's important to note that this is not the first time he's been recognized by his colleagues. Many years ago, he was also selected as the Employee of the Month. A very, very, very rare undertaking. Barton lives in Point Richmond with his wife Rebecca and his 2 children, Jeremy and Abigail. He is an avid and very accomplished cyclist and sailor. And with that, congratulations, Barton. We'll do a photo and then you can say it.
Doing double duty.
Thanks, Al. I'll hold it for you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for this award, and it's been great being an employee of the bridge. Going on, this my 20th year between being a casual and a full-time. It's great to work for Golden Gate Ferries as well. I'm very proud to be a vessel master, to work with the great crew that I have and all the other employees at Golden Gate Bridge and Golden Gate Ferry. There is a tremendous amount of commitment to doing a safe and efficient job moving people across the bay, and I'm proud to be an employee.
That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dennis, for your report. We're going to move on to item number 6B, which is the attorney's report.
I had,
No. Oh,
I had a question. Dennis, could you go over, I know that we have talked about this in the past, but why the electric ferries are not yet to the point where this district could use them? Could you just explain that one more time?
Sure.
Thank you.
Larkspur, we offer a 30 to 35-minute crossing. People choose to ride our service. The bulk of the customers that ride our ferries choose it because it's fast, convenient, and relaxing. I emphasize the fast. If we were to use an electric ferry, that 30-minute trip would be considerably longer. And, earlier this month, we sold out one of our ferry trips, an 8 o'clock Tuesday trip, had 444 people on a 450 passenger boat. That's getting cars off the road. That's reducing emissions every way you can. And to tell those folks that, well, that 30-minute trip is going to be a lot longer, means they won't ride our ferry. And so we can try to will people to change behaviors or to conform to our standards. But our customers choose what's fastest. Before the pandemic, we'd have people in the Ross Valley that would take our bus in the morning, take the ferry and the wave shuttle home in the evening, because that was the fastest way. If we look at how people choose our services, they choose what's fastest. For some people, that's driving. For some people, it's the ferry. For some people, it's the bus, depending on where they live and where they work. And so if we want to do things, we need to understand the impacts of them. So at this time, your staff is not recommending electric ferries because the technology is such they do not meet the speed and carrying capacity profile that we have. But we, for smaller boats and shorter trips, can implement electric, but they are not implementing electric on their Vallejo service. And so small trips, short trips are less time sensitive because they're short, whether it's 50% longer or not. But as you get into longer trips, time matters, particularly with respect to your constituents.
Thank you.
okay. Now, we're going on to move to item number 6B, which is our attorney's report. I will turn things over to Kim Manolis for his report. Kim?
Thank you, President Cochran. Excuse me, my written report's before you. I'm happy to take any questions. We're going to have a closed session at the end of the meeting as well. So,
Thank you, Kim. We'll move on to number 6C, which is a report of the district engineer. As a reminder, the engineer's report can be found in the Building and Operating Committee's meeting package as agenda item number 5. And
Mr. Everly sends his regrets. He woke up this morning with a sore throat and a slight fever, so he felt it was best if he remained home and did not share.
Sure. We all agree.
So do we.
So now we'll move on. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Let's move on to item number 8A, of the report of yesterday's Transportation Committee meeting. Chairman Hill, would you please begin your committee report to the board?
Thank you, President Cochran. The Transportation Committee recommends approval of item number 8, period A, period 1, which have authorized adoption of the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District's 2024 Title VI program as presented by staff, which demonstrates the district's compliance with the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion and a second. Are there any questions on the item? If not, all those who approve by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Let the record show there is no opposition to the motion, and the motion passes. Chair Hill, do you have anything further to report?
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Continuing on to 8B on the agenda, which is report of yesterday's Finance and Auditing Committee. Chair Rabbit, please begin your committee report to the board.
Thank you, President Cochran. The Finance Auditing, Finance Auditing Committee recommends approval of item 8B1 to approve the following actions relative to the funding plan for the project 2250, the Golden Gate Suspension Bridge Seismic Retrofit Construction Project as follows. 1, approve the funding plan for project 2250 in the amount of $869.6 million, funded with $400 million from the Federal Bridge Investment Program grant funds, $200 million in California Department of Transportation or Caltrans local highway bridge program funds, and up to $269.6 million in Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District reserves. 2, authorize the general manager or his designee to sign the Bridge Investment Program grant funds designated subrecipient agreement with Caltrans required to access the Bridge Investment Program grant funds for the project and any future agreement amendments. And 3, authorize the general manager or his designee to sign the Caltrans Local Highway Bridge Program funds high cost agreement with Caltrans required to access the local. Can we sign a low cost agreement? High cost agreement with Caltrans required to access the local highway bridge program funds for the project and any future agreement amendments as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions from the board? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Let the record show there is no opposition and the motion passes. Chair Rabbit, please continue with your report.
Thank you, President Cochran. The committee also recommends approval of item 8B2, which is to authorize change order number 5 to contract 2019-MD-002 security guard services for the bus and ferry facilities with Barbier Security Group in the not to exceed amount of $1,240,843 as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Are there any questions related to this item? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Hearing none, let the record show there's no opposition and the motion passes. Chair Rabbit, please continue with your report.
Thank you, President Cochran. The last recommendation is item 8B3, which is to receive the updated 5 and 10-year financial projection for the period of fiscal year 2025, 2026 through fiscal year 2034, 2035, as outlined in the appendices of the staff report, and I so move.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Before I ask for the vote, are there any questions related to this item? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Let the record show there's no opposition, the motion passes. Chair Rabbit, do you have anything further to report?
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Continue with item 8C on the agenda, which is a report from today's Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee meeting. Vice Chair Moulton Peters, thank you for chairing today's meeting in Sabrina's absence, and please bring your committee report to the board.
Thank you, President Cochran. The Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee recommends the approval of item 8C1, which will approve changes to the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District's diversity program for contracts as detailed in the staff report, and authorize submittal of the revised document to the U.S. Department of Transportation by October 9th, 2024, and I so move.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions related to this item? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Let the record show there's no opposition and the motion passes. Vice Chair Moulton Peters, do you have anything further to report?
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on, we have nothing under items 9 and 10. Item 11 is unfinished business, which I'll turn over to Kim for a closed session report. Kim, please take us into closed session.
Thanks, President Cochran. At this time, the board will go into closed session for conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9D2. For the case listed on the agenda.
You have been muted. To unmute yourself, press the star key twice.
Thank you for your patience, everybody. While we're in closed session this morning, we'll reconnect to the meeting once it's concluded. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Would you please provide the closing session report out?
Yes, of course. So the board met in closed session as noted on the agenda and gave guidance to its trial lawyers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, item number 13 is communication. And if anyone would like to receive a copy of the communications listed, please contact the district secretary's office. That takes us to the end of the agenda, and there are no further items to be presented to the board. I have a motion to adjourn this meeting. I got a second. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then I'd like to adjourn this meeting. A moment of silence for former mayor of San Rafael and our former board member, Albert J. Alburo. So get out. That concludes the meeting of the board of directors. Time is 10:30 or 11:30.